What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 94 of Into the Necrosphere. I am back after round 2 with coronavirus. And I have to say, whatever I had back in February or March, I would take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday in comparison to the hellacious couple of days I've just been through. I mean, this was coronavirus with all the trimmings. So sense of smell gone. I couldn't fucking breathe. Muscle soreness, headaches, coughing like a fucking idiot. It was just absolutely horrific, and I'm still feeling the effects of it to a degree. I think I'm kind of over the worst of it now, but it was about 9 days worth of just being flat on my back and feeling like a bag full of mashed up assholes. I think that's about the best way to describe it. But thank you to everybody who reached out and checked to see whether I was okay. Had lots of support and lots of love coming through on the socials, and I really appreciate that. So thank you very much. Hopefully this show is going to make up for my absence of last week. Jay White of Overthrow is my guest. We're here to talk about the upcoming Overthrow record to strike down the Saviour. Well, actually, I think it's just Strike Down the Saviour. But very good stuff. And Jay was one of those people who I didn't know beforehand, but we just hit it off, pretty much from the beginning. And the conversation turned out to be super entertaining. So that is going to be coming your way shortly. Also, stick around after my conversation with Jay, because I will be talking about the Tritonus Bell, the new Hooded Menace record, and I will be doing some news. So all of your old favorites back in one place. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please remember to do so on your podcasting platform of choice. The show goes up on every Tuesday on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and all of the usual platforms. I have noticed a lot more by way of reviews popping up on Apple Podcasts and things like that. And again, I'm so blown away by the support. I really hope that all of you don't think that I take that sort of thing for granted. Massive thank you to everybody who's shown some love to the show so far, and who will do so in the not too distant future. If you want to show your true love and support for Into the Necrosphere, of course, you can go to the Teespring store, pick yourself out a t-shirt or a hoodie or a jogger or whatever else catches your fancy. And of course, remember to follow the show on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The show is very easy to find. And again, for everybody that participates there and comments when I share whatever bullshit's on my mind, I really appreciate it. So that is pretty much all I have to say before we're going to get this motherfucker on the road. Once again, thank you very much to everybody for taking the time to check in on my well-being last week. I think, as I said, I'm through the worst of it now, and I will hopefully not be going through this fucking nonsense anytime soon ever again. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show for the first time ever, Jay White of Overthrow. So as we kind of got to talking right before I hit record, you were mentioning that you're just about, or you are now a newly qualified teacher.
Yeah.
So question to you, do any of the youth who you work with know what Mr. White does in his off time?
Yeah, a couple of them have asked me about it, and I always tell them the truth. So I'm like, yeah, I'm in a death thrash metal band, and they kind of look at me like, what's that? Because some of them have never even heard of the term before.
Yeah.
So I tell them about the band, and they go, oh, like, I'm going to look on Spotify and on YouTube. And I go, yeah, go for it, but none of them have, said anything. I mean, to be honest with you, during last term, before we broke up for the summer in whenever it was, June, we hadn't really had anything out anyway. Whereas now, obviously, now that we're doing this episode, we've got stuff out. So they couldn't really find anything anyway. So I was just like, yeah, stuff will be out in the summer. Whether they've actually kept their word and,
oh, they will, mate. You know what kids are like. They're an inquisitive bunch. So
yeah,
depending on how much of a disciplinarian you are, I think it'll probably be the depth to which they look into what you do in your in your time away from school?
Well, I'm pretty open with it about it with my colleagues, because they're all a pretty sort of creative bunch as well. And actually, the head is also a musician who plays in like a sort of a Deep Purple / Rainbow tribute band. So that's pretty cool, that like, and I've told him, about what I do. And he's very like, oh, we should bring it into the school, So that's it's really nice to be in that sort of environment and to sort of, to integrate that sort of thing.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned to you, both my parents were teachers. My dad was a lecturer at a university. My mom started off as a music teacher and then eventually kind of pivoted towards teaching English once music was no longer kind of a.
That's what I do. I'm an English teacher.
Oh, okay. And do you do English literature or English language?
So I do both, but the way that it worked out in my NQT year, which is newly qualified teaching year, they gave me mainly Key Stage 3. So basically, like the little kids, like from age 11 till sort of 15, mainly English language. So I haven't done a lot of literature, I haven't done a lot of poetry. But when I go to school, in a few weeks, then I'll start doing more like sort of GCSE literature, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And so, which is your preferred caning arm? Do you like kind of coming in with a strong right or a firm left?
Oh, double elbows, man.
Like, dude, I often talk to my daughter about this because she lives in a village and I think there's only about 4 or 5 kids in class with her. So we're fortunate in the sense that we almost get like private level schooling for her at no cost because it's a state school. But I do talk to her sometimes and I'll kind of talk to her about what daddy's experience was like at school, which is I was in old school South Africa where up until I was 16 years old, the cane was used liberally. So, I mean, some of the stuff that happened to me now, like if you tell it to most kids, or frankly, if I tell it to most English people, they look at me and go, "What the fuck?"
I can kind of believe that though, because because my grandmother was from South Africa. Actually, she was from Cape Town, and she passed away when I was really, really little. But I heard stories that she had told to us, or to my mum about what life was like for her at school growing up and whatnot. And so it doesn't come as a shock to me. I was just hearing from like my dad and my grandfather, because I went to the same school as both my grandfather and my father, and my brother also did. It was an all boys secondary school in North London, and they used obviously corporal punishment when my dad was a student there. So I can't believe it.
I mean, frankly though, I deserved quite a lot of the hidings.
Yeah, especially
in primary school.
Some kids need it. I think it's a shame that we can't do it now, but there you go.
Dude, one thing I will say, and look, I've never ever even contemplated hitting my daughter. I wouldn't do that. But what I will say, if I have to be completely honest, I was in school the last 2 years that I was in school. They took out corporal punishment and replaced it with detention. And I saw the discipline in the school drop to nil because, unfortunately, when it comes to boys of school age, the rod, unfortunately, is the only thing that they understand. And I was one of those boys. I'll give you an example of some of the bullshit that I used to pull, for which I got many canings. Our math teacher, when I was in grade 7, so I was 12 years old, I for about 2 or 3 months went on this campaign of sitting in his sitting in his classroom and snoring. But I would do it this way, so I'd sit there like this. But I would then he's getting pissed, like he's getting like completely agitated and pissed off. So I'd start looking around like who's doing that? And then
the old stealth snore. I like it.
And then he'd go down on this tangent about how no child would dare do that when he was young, blah blah blah. And then I started not dating my girlfriend in class. I made the mistake of saying it's me that's doing it because I hadn't told anybody about it before. And I'll never forget, I used to sit about three rows from the front. I sat down and I started snoring, and the fucking half a snore was up my nostril. He ran over, grabbed me by the neck, pulled me out of my chair, literally dragged me to his office to give me a hiding.
Did your girlfriend like rat you out, or?
Yeah, she did, mate. She did me dirty. But yeah, it was dumb shit like that. I mean, it was another thing that I often talk to people about, and they look at me all weird. It's like fist fights when I was young. That was a pretty common thing. Like it was a given you were going to get into at least 2 to 3 fist fights over the course of a year. You know, and they could get pretty rough. I remember one kid who used to, like, he kept stabbing me with his compass in my back and in my bum. And I said to him, stop it, because I've always hated when people prod me with anything.
Yeah, sure.
Stop it. He kept on doing it. I waited for the teacher to leave the class. I jumped up out of my chair. I grabbed his pencil case, smacked him through the face with it, took his suitcase, threw it off the third floor balcony, ran back into the class, started pounding him. And as I'm doing this, the teacher comes in. What do you think you're doing? That was another trip down to the woodwork class, mate, for a caning.
I've seen that before, not at my school, but I remember being at school. Like, I think that's what makes me a somewhat, because I'm doing, I like to think I'm doing quite well at the school, and I think they're quite happy with me. And I think one of the reasons is that you know, like we alluded to before, that, like, you know, the kids think it's pretty cool that, like, you know, Sir's in a band and all that kind of thing. But I know I have really vivid memories of what it was like to be them, you know, because I'm only like 31, so it wasn't that long ago that I was on the other side of the desk, as it were. So it's kind of surreal. And certainly for the first like few months that I was doing it, I suffered hugely from sort of, you know, imposter syndrome. But like, but you know, I remember that, you know, that feeling of you know, being either like the bullied or the bullier, or being the sort of, you know, the awkward kid who's, you know, in a classroom full of like dudes into like rap and hip hop, and you're like the only guy that's into, you know, rock music and all that kind of thing, and feeling that and having that sense of like, you know, isolation and having to sort of stand up for yourself and whatnot. So yeah, it's very it's something that kind of, I think, sticks with you, and I kind of never really forgot that. And I think that's one of the things that has made me kind of a somewhat successful teacher, because I think the kids recognize that. And like I said to you before we started as well, like, I'm honest with them. If they ask me an honest question, I'll give them an honest answer. But, you know, yeah, like kids will be kids, and they will just, you know, act up. But I'm quite fortunate. I work in a school that's in a really quite a nice area of London.
Which part of London?
Sort of like northwest, like not too far from sort of, I don't know if you know, like sort of Southgate way, like not too far from there. So, you know, very kind of like middle class, very mixed culturally. It's a mixed school. So, and I think that's also a big thing as well, because I said to you before, I went to an all boys school, and the school that I work in is mixed. And I think that that's absolutely, you know, the way that children should be integrated together, because, you know, you learn about, especially nowadays with all the, you know, things like, you know, gender equality being such a hot topic and whatnot. And it is good for you know, for boys and girls to mix. And the majority of the kids that I teach, you know, I teach like, I see, you know, 200 to 300 kids a day, and, you know, 95% of them are all, you know, great. So I'm really quite fortunate, and there's very little in the way of like I haven't encountered any sort of like seriously bad behavior. I've always been pretty rascals. Good. Yeah, I mean, well, you know, I can handle, you know, a bit of sort of cheek and a bit of boisterous behavior, from boys or girls. It's like it's you know, it's and I think that's one of the things, if you're going to be well, not just a teacher, I think in any profession, if you've got a thick skin and you can, you know, command yourself with a level of respect, and you get it back, you know. And kids are not stupid, especially in numbers. They'll see through. They're pretty able to pick up on, you know, a teacher who's just trying to be the adult, and, you know, you need to listen to me because I'm older and da da da. Whereas, like, you know, then there's a teacher who's really passionate about being in the classroom and about their subject, and actually wanting to do the best, wanting to get the best out of themselves as well as the kids, you know. So I try to do that anyway, and it seems to be working. So.
I think this is true of you know, any walk of life, you know, where you're in front of the public. I think people naturally, and when I say people, I mean it in kind of the broad sense, you know, kids, adults, I think they gravitate towards authenticity. You know, like if I've spoken about this so many times on the show, but if you think about it, let's take Tom Araya as a front man, right? When he speaks, he's probably the absolute, you know, antithesis of a metal front band. He's not really, you know, he's not angry, he's not swearing at the crowd, he's always got that goofy grin on his face. But when he goes, "Are you ready for war?" I mean, the people lose their shit. But he's as beloved as he is because of how authentic he is. Same with Phil Anselmo. You know, he's beloved because when he's on stage, what you see is genuinely what's inside the guy. You know, Attila, we spoke about Mayhem before we started the call. It's the same deal. Jason from Acrococker, I think, is another good example of that. The guys from Paradise Lost can get away with the fact that they barely move on stage because of the fact that what you see coming off stage is so authentic. And I feel like I really do think this is true. As I said, you know, in your case, you concede with the kids, but people will gravitate towards, and they will embrace and love authenticity rather than you being attempting to be a carbon copy of something else or someone else. And again, you see that at shows. I mean, I've been to so many shows where you see the support band, and, you know, they're making all the right moves, but there's something just off. There's some you can't put your hands on it,
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It means that they've obviously, and I completely agree with you. I've been in the same situation where I've watched a band, you know, on a local level or even beyond that, and thought, wow, you know, they're very good at mimicking, but you know, I want to see, you know, them and who they are as people. It's basically, it's choreography at the end of the day.
Well, so let's delve into controversial territory. You know, I think one of the best things about modern day female empowerment has been the fact that a lot more women that are in the scene now feel more confident about being themselves and expressing themselves authentically than necessarily they felt 20 years ago, or, you know, even maybe 15 years ago. I always felt like there was a degree of women in this music who, as actually a woman in a completely different step of life, when we're talking about something else, but it related to me to music also. They felt like they needed to be masculine in order to be accepted, and so they jettisoned all of the aspects of themselves that made them unique and that made them something different and something interesting and something you know, that people could kind of look to as a, like I said, as an alternative to, you know, let's be honest, the fucking cavemen who we all grew up loving and still love. But you know what I mean? I feel like nowadays they you know, because there's more of a because of, you know, social attitudes have changed. I feel like people are more willing to just come out and be whatever they want to be, which to me is a beautiful thing. Part of the reason I mention it, I tell you, women that weren't afraid of being themselves, and they may not be grim or necro, but I think they're fucking badass. L7. Back in the day.
Man, my housemate toured with L7, and it's a huge, because she's also a musician, huge fan of L7.
Such a great band, such an underrated band. Like there's a track of theirs off of Bricks Are Heavy called Diet Pill, which is the most simple. I mean, a kid who has just bought a guitar can learn how to play that song, but it's so fucking good, and it's so the lyrics are so well written, it's so haunting, and it's this story of this woman who's basically had enough of you know, her husband beating her up. She's packed the kids in the car. She's seduced him, if you, at least in my interpretation of the lyrics, gotten him into bed, beaten him to death with a frying pan, and the whole song is written from the perspective of her lying in bed next to him, thinking, okay, what do I do next? But
Yeah, I think
incredible.
I think you're right. They were underrated, and I think they got overlooked because of, think about the era that they came out. During the sort of Cobain is King era, and you had Blind Melon and all these bands. So, and Alice in Chains, great bands, but I think kind of they were sort of overlooked, maybe because of the female aspect, probably yes, but also I think during that era the focus is so on like grunge being this kind of like depressive, kind of like introverted, tortured soul type of music, which obviously exemplified through Nirvana and certainly Alice in Chains and Blind Melon come to mind. But if you look at like, we watched, I think there was a documentary that came out about L7, I'm not sure how many years ago, quite recent, and like it's all footage of them backstage, like, and it shows, and it's like they were like as badly behaved or more than like they give Motorhead a run for their money.
Well, dude, there's that very, very
Antics,
famous
like, so
incident.
cool. Yeah.
There's a very famous incident where some guy, I don't know what he had been yelling at Donita Sparks, the front woman on stage, but he basically been yelling at her all show, and she got fucked off, and she yanked a tampon out of her female private parts and threw it at him.
That'll do it.
Which
yeah.
I just thought was, I remember reading about that when I was young, and I was kind of shocked, but I also thought to myself, fucking hell, that is a ballsy boss move. That.
Yeah, ballsy, probably wrong wrong turn of phrase there, but yeah, that's what I mean. Like these girls, like they rock so much harder, I think, than some of like their male counterparts. Like I'll give you an example as well. Like my sister, funny, I'm talking about women in rock. She was in an all-female. I don't think all of them were, but most of them were also like lesbian punk band called the Menstrual Cramps, right? Which is like such a great name. That's such a great name for a band, but it's just annoying that I could never be in a band called the Menstrual Cramps because I'm not female. That you could only be like a female, which is just fantastic. And they were singing songs about like how a lot of men are just fucking rapists and fuck the Tories and all this kind of thing, and it's just brilliant, and it's great to see that, just because, obviously there's a market for it, girls, rocking out just as hard, if not harder than guys. But I think also that there has been a change, and certainly I think the last like 10 or so years, because a lot of the guys in metal and in rock and in punk and in alternative music are getting rid of like the assholes and like saying, look, we don't want you fuckers here abusing our sisters, essentially, because I'm the oldest of 4 kids and I got 2 younger sisters, so it's like if I saw a guy at a gig doing anything to them, I'd fucking kill them, obviously, so it's like I think there's guys as well as girls in the scene that don't want any of that shit to go on. I certainly don't. So
no, I agree. I would say though, I mean, I've been in from the point that I immigrated to Queen's Country in 2002 until probably about 2010 2011, I probably went to about 600 shows. I very rarely saw any like really egregious behavior there.
Yeah, it's rare, but I think it's once maybe here, I'm not so sure about places further afield like America, excuse me, etc. But I think maybe once in a blue moon, it happens.
I mean, I also worked in the city and I saw some fucking whack stuff happen there.
Sure.
And that's always a contrast to me. Like people go, oh, this metal crowd did this. I go, well, hang on here a little bit. Have you seen what people get like what city workers get like on a Thursday night when they get boozed up?
Oh it's atrocious. Yeah, I mean,
that's way different to this.
Yeah, I was a bartender before I became a teacher, on and off for about a decade, and in not just like metal pubs, but different pubs and venues and whatnot. And some of the behavior you see just from like the sort of the normies sort of crowd is just like atrocious, like shocking. They just don't know when to stop drinking, and they act like retards and just act like, atrociously. So
Well,
yeah.
I've always been of the opinion that if you can't handle your drink, then you should be man enough or woman enough to go, I shouldn't be drinking.
Oh yeah,
like
that's what happened to me. Really, I stopped drinking. What? I've been sober now for 2 years. I haven't had.
really.
Yeah. I stopped drinking after. Well, there was the number of reasons, but basically, I just stopped feeling good when I would drink. I'd feel good for like a bit, but then it would just be, hours and hours of just like depression and woe, and then a hangover for 2 days. And then there was an incident. The last time I drank, I was actually in Como in Italy for a friend's wedding with my girlfriend and a bunch of our friends. Ended up drinking pretty much like half a bottle of vodka to myself, as well as a bunch of like 7% IPA. Spent the next 2 days throwing up in every public toilet and park in Como, and said, "That's it. This never again. I'm never gonna put myself through this ever again." And I stopped.
I was on a so I was completely teetotal when I lived in South Africa. As a matter of fact, I truly detested booze. I remember I'll never forget how hurt and infuriated I was when I saw the first Pantera home video where they're all fucked up and boozed up all the time. I was like, how could they? I thought they were different.
Yeah,
anyway,
feel betrayed.
was never into that. Then I moved here, and then I remained teetotal for about 2-3 years. When I started working in the city, the CEO of the company interviewed me for the place that I joined, and I think it was a good thing that he said it to me. But he did say to me at the time, he said, "Look, we don't grow clones here, and I completely understand and appreciate that you're different. But if we're going to go out drinking on a Thursday night and you're going to sit in the corner and be miserable, then this is not the place for you."
Yeah.
And so I was like, I took that to heart, and I'm a team player, so I joined in. But the thing with me with drink is I just get sleepy.
Yeah.
And it was I built quite a reputation for, if the guys are out at a club or at a strip club or something, then most likely at about 2 a.m, Jackie's in the toilet sleeping. And I was so sophisticated about it as well. I would set my alarm for like an hour later. I'd be asleep.
I need to set my alarm for the quick the vodka nap. Yeah, it's got to be done.
Pretty much. But I do remember one day, it's 2010. I kind of had. I still have. I like a glass of wine every night. I have like 2-3 beers if I'm barbecuing. But I've never ever drunk to excess, and it's very very rare that I've had any sort of hangover, because one, I hate being hungover.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, I was out at a business lunch, and we'd been smoking cigars and boozing and stuff all afternoon. I remember going home, and at Waterloo Station I had to jump off, and I was like, okay, things are about to get bleak. I threw up at Waterloo Station, threw up at Kennington Station, got off at where I was living in Collier's Wood at the time, got off there. I threw up in just about every bush on the way to my house, fell asleep on the floor, and I woke up the next morning. I was like, that is never fucking happening ever again, because I can't look myself in the eye behaving like that. I felt like I have higher expectations or higher standards, that I feel I should adhere to than to act like some fucking idiot like this. And I was never abusive or aggressive or whatever, getting drunk. It's more the case of, I've never liked the look of somebody who's so drunk they're throwing up, they're out of control. It's fucked up to me. And so I've just never liked it. It's a very weak look. I don't know how,
you're
how
right.
best to describe it.
It's I think you hit the nail on the head. It's very weak, and like I would never get sort of abusive or whatever, but I would just be very kind of, just all over the place, and just not very, I guess I wasn't very kind to myself, as it were, because I'd had all these, I'm quite sort of bubbly and quite sociable, and I get on with most people, and I would become a bit more sort of introverted, I suppose, and then again, be sleeping or throwing up and whatnot, and it just got to the point where there was too much pain and not enough joy. It's like
Yeah.
it didn't balance it out. Like, okay, like, however many hours and like pounds spent, in the pub. It's like, okay, but you only had fun about that much, and then the rest of the time it's just misery. So it's like, enough's enough. And funnily enough, though, like, I actually had my first night out, proper night out in Camden in about 18 months, because obviously we just come out of like lockdown or whatever. And I didn't realize it until afterwards. It was the first time I'd been out, like, to all these different bars and seeing friends completely sober. And I had such a good time, like, just catching up with people and seeing people that I hadn't seen in months and telling them about the band and what was going on, and, and teaching and all this. And it was just really great. And I stayed out till like 2 a.m, like I would have normally done had I been drinking. It's just like I hadn't been drinking, and I had such a fucking good time. And it's like, wow, it can be done,
Yeah. So aside from that crack hit that you took early on in the night.
Oh yeah, but that's standard. That's standard, yeah. And but yeah, it's just, I think it's just getting older, getting, wiser, getting serious about, the band. That was the main thing. That was the real, and also wanting to change my my working situation. I wanted to pick something that I could do well and enjoy, but also pursue my passion, which is music. And I've got that now. So it's like, I'm in such a good place. I really don't want to fuck it up by going back to the booze as well. Not that I would,
So I was going to say, I mean, it sounds to me like if I think about work-wise and obviously band-wise, anybody listening to this may not know it, but you guys as Overthrow have been together since 2011, and you're only now about to bring out your debut.
Yeah.
But it sounds like at some point over the course of the last 2 years, you had a real come to Jesus or come to Satan moment. As
definitely. It was staring down a toilet bowl, and it opened up, and the black, little red guy came out and was like, "Listen, you need to be thinking about what you're doing right now, Mr. White." Stopping drinking was one of many sort of little victories that then led me on to, getting to the point where we are now, and looking back on the last 10 years and thinking, you know what, it's all been worth it, to get to this point, because we're now in such a strong position where, obviously for me and for the guys, well, to some of the guys in the band and for people that know us, yes, it's been 10 years, and now we've only just got our album to sort of show for it. But to a lot of other people, it's like we're a brand new band. They don't really know the history of us, of our sort of prior existence. But in a weird way, and this is not to denigrate any of the former members of the band, but in a way, it's almost like the band is starting kind of now. So it's it depends on how you look at it. Like I was talking to someone else the other day. I was doing another interview about the album, and another thing is I think, if it's taken us 10 years to write this one album, then so be it. But I don't think it'll take us, hopefully not another 10 years to write the second one. I don't think it will at all, because of sitting on a bank load of material that's going to come out. But I think also there is that thing of, quality over quantity. Like, I'd rather have taken 10 years to do this album than 10 releases in 1 year that are shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's, a lot, and obviously personal turmoil and personnel changes. And look, like, life, it's hard being in a band. It always has been, especially nowadays. And I think, because people say they want to do it, and then things happen, they get families or something happens and they're not ready for it, and then they think, oh, actually I don't really want to do it, or they're not as committed as they say they are. And you have to really think, and this is what happened with me, to answer your question before. Like, I took a real long, like, hard look at myself, had a long conversation with myself, to what do I really want? How do I want to live that's going to make sense to me? You know what I mean? Or the best part of me. And yeah, I'm fortunate. I think I'm kind of there now. So, if you can get there, the rest is easy, like,
yeah.
So And having good people around you that also want the best for you and for themselves is also, that's the hardest. If you can get that down, the rest is easy.
That's again, it's make or break for a lot of people. I mean, what's the saying? You're the average of the four people you spend the most time with. I really do believe iron sharpens iron. I mean, I see it in my day job. There's you'll have somebody like I cover 63 countries. You'll have somebody in a particular region who's an underperformer, and then you get rid of say there's like real life situation. There's two weak performers. What I got rid of one of them, brought in somebody to replace that person who was outstanding. All of a sudden, the other person's performance lifts. And it's like that in a lot of aspects of life. Iron truly does sharpen iron. If the friends that you're with, as an example, push you to excel, because they themselves are excelling and they themselves are focused on the right things in life, all of a sudden you'll find not only are you doing better, but it feels more, it feels, simultaneously like more work, but more effortless. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you've adapted to responsibility. I think that's what it is. You voluntarily accepted that, it's like that life is shit and it's difficult. But if you can accept that and not sort of, bury your head in the sand and be like, yeah, okay, well, bring it on because I'm ready to sort of take on all comers, then it does become easier. It does still feel like it is hard work, but basically your capacity to take on hard work has improved exponentially. You just become stronger,
And it will also continue to improve the more you take on, because you'll find that maybe you go down a 6-month stretch that is particularly testing and particularly difficult. Then you get to the end of the 6-month stretch and you look back at it and you go, Jesus, I managed to do all of that. Because you don't always realize when you're in the thick of things what you're busy accomplishing at that time. You go, but you look back and you go, I did all that. When you do a similar 6-month stretch down the line, it's not going to seem all that difficult because you've been there. You know what to look out for. You know the things to avoid. You know the things to do better. You know the things to do differently. So I really do think that kind of leaning into adversity is the way to deal with adversity, not running away from it.
Yeah. Get the it's better to run towards the dragon than to run from it.
Yeah.
I suppose.
That sounds almost like a line from a Jordan Peterson book, mate. Have you
I think that's probably where I got it from. Yeah, because I've been. I was
about to say, have you been reading the far right prescribed Jordan Peterson?
No, that's also been another catalyst to getting me to sort of where I'm at now. I've been, I've watched all his lectures and I read his books, and it was the first time I read something that I felt like it was written for me. Like it could have been like it's called 12 Rules. It could have been 12 Rules for Jay White. You know what I mean? Like it really spoke to me and got me to the point where now I'm so much like I feel so much better about life, and I'm okay with life. And you mentioned Jordan Peterson. He's been a huge help to me. I hope I can meet him one day. That'd be really nice.
Did you did you go to his show when he was in London in 2018, I think?
No, I wanted to, but I think it got cancelled or something.
No. So he was. I was there. He was at the Hammersmith Apollo. It was outstanding. It was interesting because he was talking about people that had come to speak to him about the effect that the book had on him and things like that.
Yeah.
And, he was getting really tearful about it, like really choked up.
Yeah. Again,
which I thought was interesting.
That's another, because he's like you were talking about before. He's genuine. You know what I mean? And like whether this noisy minority of these so-called SJWs say that he's like a transphobe and all this, it's like like listen to what the man is actually saying, and like look at the people like me who are not far right, not xenophobic, very accepting of all people, who was going through, coming to the end of my 20s, lost, needed some direction, needed some discipline and some responsibility, and then this man comes and offers it, basically on a silver platter. And it's like, I didn't realize how much I needed his guidance until I got it, and I've been telling people this, and it's been helping other people that I know around them, people like myself who are like not necessarily all male, but like, you know, female as well, and, you know, people that are just sort of at a loss of, you know, what they want to do with themselves. And I think, you know, no one's really giving anyone that, and he is, and, you know, more power to him. And I think it comes from a place of genuine, you know, fear of what might happen if people, you know, really don't look after themselves and each other properly, you know. And that's what he's sort of preaching. I hate to use that word, but
I think the accusations that have been made about him and, you know, being far right and this, that, and the other, I think that they are incredibly disingenuous for starters.
Yeah.
I mean they're done, the vast majority of them, I think, are done in exceptionally bad faith.
And also they're misinformed and come from a place of just ignorance. I find, and
I remember reading, I think it was a Guardian article about that night at the Hammersmith Apollo, and they were like, it feels like people are being radicalized, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what fucking event were you at? There was a extraordinarily diverse group of people in the audience. There were people from all backgrounds, all races. There were men, women, and everybody was getting something out of what he was saying. And I thought that the you know, to really kind of add insult to injury, when he went through his own problems, they really piled on. Like, he taught people to be strong and tough and blah, blah. And look at him, he was addicted to painkillers and stuff like that. I mean, the guy's wife had cancer.
Yeah, it's just sickening. And you know, people that throw around those accusations, I mean, you know, you really got to. I would take them with a grain of salt, because they're clearly, you know, very insecure about themselves. And their own, you know, convictions. So
I think, you know, I think it's two things have been my observation of folks that are on there, because I've noticed increasingly those people in that camp try and disassociate themselves from liberalism as well, because I think enough has now been said about, hey, by the way, what you're preaching at the moment isn't classic liberalism, which, you know, at least, you know, it might espouse a lot of the virtues of folks that have traditionally been on the politically to the left of things. But, you know, it's in principle, much of what you're saying has got nothing to do with that anymore. You've gone, you know, way to the far reaches of you know, socialism and communism. But I think one of the things that I've noticed about people in that camp is exactly as you said now, there's a great degree of personal insecurity and confusion. Many of them seem to me to be extraordinarily lost. They're lost people. Like, you see these photos and stuff, these lineups of Antifa rioters that have been arrested and stuff like that. And you look at their faces, and I genuinely feel sorry for them. Like, these people seem completely and utterly lost, like hopeless. They have no direction. So they fall in with this crowd where they feel that they're accepted.
Because it gives them an identity. That's the whole. It gives them a group identity rather than an individual identity, because they're not okay with who they are, or they don't even know who they are. So they align themselves to a group, you know, thinking, oh, you know, safety in numbers, and that gives them, you know, a kind of modus operandi to go out and make a lot of noise with placards and whatnot. And it's like, okay, fine. The thing is, though, like, I didn't see, and I'm not a political person at all. I don't pretend to care. If somebody starts talking to me about politics, present company excluded, I just shut off and go do something else. I really couldn't give a shit. You know what I mean? But the thing is, like, and that's the other reason why I like Peterson, is because what he's saying is not political at all. I don't see any politics. It's just that this contingent of the noise, this noisy minority, and I think now they've, you know, most people are kind of smart enough to realize that actually, you know, what he's been doing in his books have actually helped people more than rather than hindered people. It's that, this sort of noisy minority have totally missed the point, because they want to politicize everything. To them has a political agenda, and it's no, this is about personal responsibility. It's about loving yourself and loving, you know, people around you, and respecting yourself and respecting people that deserve your respect. And that's what I've taken from it. And it's a really pure thing, and it's got nothing to do with, oh, you know, you believe in this, you believe. Look, there are some things that I believe that you may think, oh, that's quite a conservative view. Fine. There are some things that I believe that you may, oh, that's quite liberal. It's like, you can't. I'm not like no human being is one thing. You know, you're an amalgam of so many different things that you can't put me in a box. You know what I mean? That's kind of kind of segueing quite nicely into back to the band. I think that's what we do with Overthrow as well. Like, you listen to the music, you can't really put us in a box, and I kind of didn't really put two and two together until sort of recently. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it's a scary time now, and I think we need to be respecting one another and helping each other as much as we can, especially now.
I really do think that I increasingly believe the pendulum is going to swing. I can feel it. It's the world has been in similar places before in the 1960s with Vietnam. When Jimmy Carter was president of America, there was a lot of division. The pendulum will swing. There's enough folks. When people that were traditionally far left, like Bill Maher, is starting to go, hey, whoa, you guys are out of your fucking minds. You know that at some point the very, very large group of us in the middle who go, we can differ, but we're still human beings at the end of the day,
exactly.
and we need to learn to live together in peace and harmony. I think the really critical thing right now is that we're not silent, and that we band together, and that we band together in spite of our differences, because I do still see I see infighting from folks in the middle as well, and it's like this is counterproductive. The whole principle here needs to be, we can live together in spite of our differences.
And also, agree to disagree. You know what I mean? It's like, be a fucking adult. Like, it's okay. Like, okay, you don't believe me, or you don't believe the same things that I believe. That's fine. We can still be friends. We can still not kill each other.
I'm not going to invite you to my house, or you're not allowed for a barbecue or anything like that, but still, we can kind of be friends. No, I'm kidding. I feel like the whole the whole world has become the veganism argument in all quarters of life. I've spoken about this before, but I was unceremoniously not only unfriended but blocked by Thomas Warrior from what's his face from Celtic Frost.
No way.
Posting a picture of a piece of steak that I had grilled in the afternoon on Facebook.
Oh man, I saw your profile the other day actually, and I was like, oh wow, it's like food porn, man. Like,
dude, I did I did ribs the other day that I'm not even gonna try and downplay it. My finest work ever. Absolutely fucking brilliant.
Short rib or back?
St. Louis cut spare ribs, mate. I don't really like baby backs because there's not enough meat on the bones, and I find if you have them on the smoker, it can sometimes become very like the meat can kind of pull back to a point where it just feels to me like I'm sucking on a bone. Beef short ribs perfect, but it's a different kind of cook. But if I'm gonna make pork ribs, then St. Louis cut spare ribs is the way to go.
Nice. I'll have to try some of them.
Really dude, no. If you want some tips on that, let me know. I've dedicated more time to perfecting barbecue than probably anything I've done in my life.
My dad's the same. He's very, very meticulous when it comes to barbecue as well. So I'll be sure to tell him about the.
Well, maybe you and Sam can come over, because he said before he wants to come over, and I was going to drop him a line, and say, look, you need to jump in your little whatever he's driving right now and come up the M4 and come and visit.
All right, sold. Okay, cool. Let's do it.
And we can listen to the new Overthrow record on my. I'm getting my new hi-fi upgrade turns up in September, so we can listen to it and on a decent setup. I will say, by the way, I was very, very impressed. I've been super impressed by how professional and slick everything is as far as the rollout of this album is concerned. And you guys are doing all of this independently, right?
Yeah, 100%. We're not signed, and that's really that really means a lot that you would say that, because we have been trying to do it as sort of, as without hindrance as possible, considering the circumstances that we made the album in, during lockdown and going through sort of different phases of personal tragedy and whatnot, getting the actual album out and, you know, promoting it and getting videos done and all this, you know, we wanted to do so kind of, you know, I get like by the book, I guess, but without any, you know, we haven't got any sort of label support. We're doing this completely off our own back. So it's really great that you spotted that, because that's exactly what we wanted to do. So,
well, the first thing I looked for when I heard the first track that you guys put out, I mean, I was impressed by kind of the sonic quality of it. I thought it sounded really good. You know, I like the music as well. And then, like I said, I watched the videos and I was like, this is really well done. I mean, I'm not I don't really watch a lot of music videos, but I like the way it was presented and done. There's no grand narrative around it. I don't really care for that very much when it comes to music videos. I just thought it looked very cool. I thought the way you guys present yourself looks cool. It looks polished, but that's still great. Badass.
Thanks, man.
But I was going to ask, I mean, have you guys, or had you shopped around the music by any, you know, to any labels?
I think maybe just a couple of labels here or there. I had like one guy who I think used to, I can't remember what label it is now, but I think he said he used to work for Century Media, who says, oh yeah, it's pretty good, it's not that original, but, you know, let me know if there's anything else that you're releasing that we can maybe work with. And I did, and I never really heard back from him. So, you know, it's kind of we thought to ourselves, well, at this point, maybe, you know, let's focus more on, you know, just getting, you know, press and, you know, getting people, you know, following us on, you know, on the Facebook and on, you know, YouTube, because now we're obviously putting our videos up there, and Instagram, because obviously, you know, we're coming out now of not being able to play live, whereas before we were playing live fairly sort of semi-regularly, and that obviously went to shit because of, you know, lockdown. So we had to kind of think outside the box, as it were, in trying to get people to notice. Because one of the things I really, you know, am not, you probably, you know, other people in bands probably feel the same way, is, you know, my least favorite thing about being in a band is, you know, dealing with, like, you know, social media and, you know, all the admin crap and waiting on people. I hate it, because it's got nothing to do with being a musician and nothing to do with being an artist, but it needs to be done, you know, and it has worked for us. So it's kind of me, again, having to sort of get over myself and be like, look, just get on with it, do it, and, you know, good things will happen. So, and we were fortunate to hook up with our, excuse me, our, the guy that did all our videos. He also helped us out with, because we were pretty clueless as to how to do like a promotional campaign, and he said, look, I'll help you plan your promo campaign. And he's helped us out with, you know, how to use, you know, social media effectively, and how to engage people, and, you know, get new fans and new followers and all that. So he's been, you know, we're really, really happy that we hooked up with him, not just for the videos, but also because of his insight into using, because whereas before I kind of shied away from using technology. It's like, well, no, you know, we're a band, you know, the music should speak for itself, and it's like, yeah, but, you know, it's also a good tool to use if you know how to use it sort of well. And we're starting to get there. starting to embrace the 21st century a little
I was about
bit.
to say, and the problem is you have no choice anymore. You know, it's
yeah.
I feel like, I mean, I experienced this on you know, on the podcast also, and it pisses me off no end sometimes, the amount of work that has to go into, as an example, getting guests on the show.
Yeah.
Because but then at the same time, when I get pissed off about it, I resign myself to the fact that it's like, this is basically like Tinder. You know, you are you know, guys in record labels are being inundated with demos and fucking requests for promos. And I mean, I don't ask for promos, but, you know, requests for this, requests for that, interview requests, everything else. And it becomes like, you know, the hot girl depending on who the label is, it's like the hot girl on Tinder who probably has 900,000 guys messaging her the same old shit. And she just kind of, most of it just falls by the wayside, unless there's something that catches her so off guard, or, you know, from left field, that she goes, oh wow, actually that's interesting, maybe I'll talk to that person. For the most part, she's not really paying much attention to it. As a matter of fact, you know, sidebar, I read that statistically, I think the 30% of the most attractive males on Tinder date 70% of the most unattractive women on Tinder. But it's like it's because of like the supply and demand thing. So, like I said, if I message a record label asking them to to interview a band, the chances of me hearing back are very, very, very slim.
Yeah, that's the thing, because we're just we're just like another sort of drop in the ocean as far as they're concerned. So that's why the focus has been, we shifted our focus onto, well, let's focus on just getting the music, the videos, all that sorted, and let's get some press and let's get on some gigs, and that's starting to bear fruit now. So we tried approaching labels back in nearly 10 years ago when we really were not ready, and it's just kind of, these things take time, and you have to be patient, and you have to nurture it, and you have to really present something to, whether it's a label or whether it's a magazine or someone like yourself. You have to present them with something that you can stand behind and be like, yeah, this is us, like this is what we're fucking proud of, and it's taken us a long time to get there, but we're finally there now. And like I said, it's bearing fruit. So
yeah. Well, mate, I mean, the intent with the show in part is, I always dreamed of being on the radio, and then I realized when I moved to the UK that no one is interested in a South African playing metal and talking shit. No one's going to pay me thousands and thousands of pounds to do that. So
you never know. I have a good feeling about this podcast in particular. I was saying to my girlfriend, when we were communicating before, I was, really excited. I was like, oh, I'm going to be on, Into the Necrosphere. And she said, oh, what's that? And I was like, and I tried to kind of describe it to her, and I was like, so what Jackie is doing is really great, because it's kind of in its infancy. It hasn't been around for a while, but I think it's going to be really, it's going to be big, and it's going to be, good, and it's a great platform for people like myself, underground, to get their stuff out there, but also to talk about real things like what we've been doing. So it's almost I've kind of described you as the Joe Rogan of angry boy music.
Well, that's how I kind of normally pitch it to anybody who wants to come on. It's like, basically, this is Joe Rogan for metal people. You come on. There you go.
Yeah, and
talk shit for as long as we're going to do. I mean, the podcast has been around for 2 years, but I definitely feel like in the last year, especially, it's really kind of taken off. I mean, I saw today on Spreaker, my average monthly downloads is 10,000 now.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, on YouTube, it'll never be all that much, but I kind of YouTube for me is almost like a marketing platform, because no one is going to listen to long form podcasts on YouTube, because no one's going to sit there and watch it for an hour and a half. Man, I'm not that handsome.
Oh, I do that, but that's because I'm quite boring. I don't really do much else, but no, I do. Like I've watched, I quite enjoy the podcast format, so. Yeah, I mean, there's
25 minutes of me ranting like a lunatic at the end of the podcast.
But it's like there is a market for that, and like I discovered music through your podcast as well. So it's a good thing. It's like it's self-propagating the scene, and I think.
Oh well, I appreciate you saying that, and I mentioned about needing an outlet. Part of it also is being able to give back to the scene, because I do feel like. There are, if you look at how I've kind of timed most of my releases, I will always try and sandwich a big name between like 2-3 smaller bands. So I'll have Aaron Eady from Paradise Lost on, and then I'll have you guys on, when I'll have Trivax on. For me, that's like, okay, I've hopefully gotten an influx of new people to listen and to check it out, and now I'm going to hit them with something that they don't know.
Yeah.
And so for me, like when people go, I discovered this band off you. I bought this band on Bandcamp thanks to you. That to me is the best compliment ever, because it means it means I'm succeeding in what I want to do.
Exactly, yeah, and you're covering the spectrum as well of like bands who are established and bands who are still kind of like finding their way, and it's a great platform for for people like me to kind of voice their sort of opinions and concerns and what it's really like to be a part of the scene and be a part of the band. So there may be people watching or listening who are also maybe in a similar position as me, and maybe not knowing sort of what it's like, and then having a podcast like this is a great platform for that. So
I think also I do feel like there's a lot of bands that the industry side of the scene is sleeping on at the moment. I think I mean, if I had the time and the inclination and the money, I'd start my own label and sign them. But you guys, Privax, trying to think who all comes to mind. There's a band out of Los Angeles that I fucking love called Born Ultra. I am astounded that nobody has signed them yet. To me, that's like one. Yeah, they sound like basically if Inquisition didn't turn into a bunch of pussies, they would
bunch of Nazi pedophiles. Yeah.
Well, I mean, their last record was. I mean, I loved Bloodshed Across the Empyrean Altar by the Celestial Zenith. Great record, but the last album was fucking awful. But Born Ultra is kind of that vibe, but just more mean and badass.
Cool, I'll check them out.
There's one of my favorite bands, Utkana. They released a record, and it's not under, they're not a bad label, but I mean it's Pest Records out of China. It's nothing. They're not going to get the exposure they deserve as a band. I mean, they should be fucking enormous. So it just there's a ton of bands like that, and I've almost considered saying to a label that I've got a good relationship with, like Debo Morty or Season of Mist, I'll do A&R for you for free. Literally, just if I find something that's good, I'll send it your way. All you need to do is listen to it and tell me yay or nay. That's it. But I'll do it for you for free. I don't want a red cent from it, but I get enough good stuff sent to me that I bet you're going to be able to get at least 3-4 great bands out of this.
Well, that's the thing as well, because a lot of bands, knock on the door, labels hear nothing, but then you're so open to wanting to hear new music and give younger bands or not as established bands a platform, that it's only gonna, that's why I think it's only gonna grow and grow and grow, especially for this podcast. So
yeah, no, that's awesome to hear, man. And I would hope that there's been a couple of bands that have benefited from it. That's how, again, in terms of getting people to buy stuff, that's how I got Panzerfaust on. Enough people went on their Bandcamp, bought the last record, that they were like, where did you hear about it? And they sent into the Necrosphere, and that's how I got Brock from Panzerfaust on. Awesome, and I mean, again, what a band. I mean, that one of the best records of last year, and one of the records I'm most excited about this year as well. As a matter of fact, you guys are going to be releasing Strike Down the Saviour in pretty heavy traffic, because September is when things start kind of picking back up again, right?
Well, exactly. And it's also when, we're going to start, hopefully, I mean, I can't confirm this yet, but we're probably going to start gigging again come early October. So it's kind of set us up quite nicely, I like to think. But yeah, there are a lot of, bands releasing material, I think, on the same day. So but yeah, we're just we're going to do it and just see what happens, basically. Have
you got anything confirmed yet as far as shows are concerned?
I mean, we're going to do our launch in the first week of October in London, but I can't really say too much about it because it hasn't all been confirmed yet. But once it's confirmed, I'll let you know.
So you're not under embargo or anything. I had to this week, so I posted the Paradise Lost episode. I'm all excited, like one of my favorite bands, one of the best guests I've ever had on. And I literally, like 5 minutes after it goes live, I get an email from Simon Blackened, who's their I don't think he's their manager, he's their PR guy. He's like, oh yeah, PL management has asked you to take it down because Aaron mentioned their appearance at the Damnation Festival and it's not been announced yet. I was like, fuck me.
That's why I want to be a bit careful and not jinx it. You know what I mean? It's give away too many. But hopefully first week of October, and it will be in London. But I can't really say too much else. But as soon as I should be getting confirmation this week, so I'll let you know. For sure.
Cool. Well, dude, how was Camden? You mentioned. I mean, I've not been there now for. It's fucking insane to even think it, because I used to go there multiple times a week. Like I haven't been there now for a good 18 months.
Yeah. Well, that's. I think the last time I went was maybe about 18 months ago. I mean, I just go to all my usual haunts and like bars that I used to work in. I used to work at the first bar I ever worked at was a bar called The Dev.
I was just about to say that. So I played at the Dev with
No
Copperhead
way.
in 2011, I think.
We were
2011, 2012. I'll send you the video.
Oh, maybe I was probably working there at the time, maybe because we were like the house band at the Dev for a while when we first started. We played there nearly like every month, it would seem, and I also used to work at the Black Heart, which is obviously another one of my favorite venues and places, and it's great. It was great to just be in those places again and just to see friends and just to hang out and hear metal loud with people getting drunk around you. It's just fantastic.
Did have there been any bars or any spots that have kind of fallen by the wayside as a result of the lockdown?
I mean, there's obviously Crowbar in Tottenham Court Road that sort of went out with a bit of a whimper because of COVID, and that was a while ago now.
But that was kind of on the cards when as soon as the Mean Fiddler and the Astoria shut as well.
Yeah,
the Crowbar was always I was about to say, it was always the destination with there's not a huge amount of reason to go there anymore once those places shut.
Exactly, and also going to every time I go to Denmark Street, it breaks my heart a little bit more because it's all the guitar shops are closing down and whatnot, bit by bit. But it's hard for me to say because actually the Black Heart was in danger of closing down, and they started a crowdfunding campaign. I think it was like £50,000
I spoke about that on the podcast actually.
Yeah,
so I gave them a push as well. So did they manage to hit their target?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so that was obviously a huge relief. But as far as other bars in Camden, I'm not really sure because I don't really go anywhere else other than the Dev and the Black Heart because that's where all my friends are and that's where they play all my music. But I mean, it's good to be back there, and also having not working in that scene anymore. I'm kind of a little bit out of the loop as far as like the goings on in bars and whatnot. But
yeah, no, I mean in terms of where I went when I was there, it was normally the World's End and the Underworld and Ones in the Blue.
I think the World's End is okay. There was I didn't go in, but as I was leaving to go home, I walked past the Underworld just to check the gig listings, and there was a bit of a crowd outside the World's End. So that seems to be doing fine.
And the trash, I assume, is still piled knee high as it's always been. For a place with the council tax that place charges to be that much of a disgrace, I've no idea.
Yeah, but it's all the houses that you don't see on the high street that are like tucked away. Like all the Amy Winehouse houses and stuff that are all like extortionate amounts of money and whatnot. I actually lived in Camden when I was going to uni. I had a flat. I was literally about 10 seconds away from the Unicorn, which is another bar that we used to. I think the Unicorn might have closed down though, actually. So I was going past in an Uber, and it was all friend of mine was saying, "Oh, it's all boarded up," and I think that's actually gone. So if that's the case, that's really sad. But yeah, another great, sort of dirty, metal venue. And then you have the Big Red on Holloway Road.
Yeah, I know the Big Red very well.
And I think it's still going, but I think that they sold it a couple of years ago, so it's just a different vibe there. So, I've only just started to kind of go out and see civilization again, so it's kind of taking it all in, one sort of bar at a time. But that's why I had such a good time last weekend or whatever it was, just seeing people and being out again and getting to be immersed in Camden without obviously not working there anymore. It's cool.
One thing that I think a lot of people forget about Camden, and I don't know whether you lived there around this time, but I remember going there in like 2002, 2003. It used to be fucking rough. Like I saw a guy stabbed at the restaurant across the road from the Underworld. I saw all sorts of crazy shit happen when I was there. and then it kind of got itself cleaned up, and for a while, like I said, even the rubbish was taken away, and then they decided to stop that altogether. I myself have moved out of London. I live in the middle of nowhere now, which is ideal, man. In the winter, especially, I listen to Dunkelheit, and it's just black metal all around me.
Nice.
But I will be back in London to see Paradise Lost in April.
Oh, cool.
I've had tickets for Mayhem since the date was first announced in 2019. So it just keeps getting postponed. So I've got tickets for the show in May. So I will be back there at some point. And the one thing that I miss bitterly about not being in London is, probably the thing I missed most, aside from shows during the lockdown, was being able to go to the Comedy Store.
Oh yeah, sure.
I don't know whether how much time you've ever spent there, mate, but it was one of the best nights you could possibly have. It's incredible.
I think we played a gig there once, actually. I think they were doing they had like a band night at the Comedy Store, and we played there. It was like this basement. Is it like a basement?
Yeah.
And we played there, and it was like a really, I've got video of it somewhere, and it was like a really like early version of the band, and we played, and it was great fun, actually. I remember that was a really good gig. But I've never really haven't gone to that many stand-up comedy gigs, which is weird because I fucking love stand-up comedy. But I've never really been to that many gigs. The only stand-up comedian I've actually gone to see, I think, is Dylan Moran.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to any other. But I love, I'll watch stand-up comedy on YouTube for like hours.
Dude, you especially if you just got the Comedy Store on your doorstep, you seriously need to go. It is it's by no small stretch of the imagination, in my opinion, you cannot have a better night in London.
Cool. All right.
And if I can make a very, very strong suggestion to you, although I'm on the Comedy Store website now, it looks like they cancelled his appearance. There's a guy named Phil Nickel. Okay, so Phil Nickel is at the Comedy Store for the Late Show on Saturday night on the 28th of August.
Okay.
He is one of the funniest human beings I've ever seen in my entire life.
Phil Nickel.
Yeah. So so that 9:55 show, Saturday 28th of August, at the Comedy Store, and like I said, he's there. So Tom Wrigglesworth is there, Susie Raffaella's there, Mick Ferry's there, Emmanuel Sonubi. I've seen Emmanuel Sonubi; he's very funny. Mick Ferry's very funny. Generally speaking, those nights are always great. But cool. Phil Nickel is, in my opinion, one of the most underappreciated comedians ever. But he is like, it's like a dude snorted about 20 rails of coke and then came on stage. He's so intense and so crazy. Like
that's all a comedian should be, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. You know, like a Jim Jeffries or a fucking, you know.
He's nuts. I've seen him in a show like because the crowd gets so into it too. Like, you know, you got this woman to take her top off, and the whole crowd is like, you know, the most buttoned down, demure people turning into savages in there. But he's so funny. Just do not, whatever you do, sit anywhere near the front. We sat right in front when we were.
The first two rows will get wet and topless.
Mate, he just kept on and kept on and kept on, and people in front all the time. Like he's really bad.
Yeah. So you're asking for trouble, to be honest. If you sit in the front.
Cool, there was this old lady who was like 80 years old, and he kept on going on about how she's his girlfriend and she dumped him. And then he'll like suddenly grab his guitar and start singing the song about how he jerks off in the shower to memories of them together. It's fucking genius, mate.
Oh, wow.
But listen, brother, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, man. It's a real pleasure and a thrill for me to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it again at some point in the not too distant future. The album is called Strike Down the Saviour, which I love the title.
Oh, thanks, man.
And it's out on the 10th of September, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And you will be putting it out on all the streaming platforms as well as Bandcamp, etc., etc.
Yeah, Spotify. We'll put the album in full on YouTube probably as well if you want to listen to it on YouTube. But yeah, mainly Spotify, Bandcamp. We'll
I'm looking for a high-res version on Qobuz, mate.
On which one?
Qobuz.
Which one's Qobuz?
It's a French streaming site. It's relatively popular, but it's like it's a lot of it is high res music. So they'll put on like 48 hertz or 24 by 96 FLAC files, which is like Season of Mist post all their stuff on there in high res. And
cool.
when you come visit, you'll understand why I like high res music.
Oh yeah, with your badass hi-fi you're getting in September. Awesome, man. We got to do that though. Absolutely, we've got to call Sam.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. We'll sort something out.
Wicked.
All right, dude.
Man. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, you two, and I'll speak to you soon.
Keep it real on the streets.
Cheers, brother.
Take
it easy. Bye.
That was Altar of the Fallen by Overthrow off the forthcoming record Strike Down The Saviour, which will be released on September the 10th. Thank you so much to Jay for coming on the show, and make sure that when that record comes out, you guys check it out, show it some love. Head over to their Bandcamp. I will post the link in the description of the podcast, and let Jay know that you heard about his band and his music on Into the Necrosphere. Right, let's talk about some new music now, and the new record by Hooded Menace is out, is out to quite a bit of critical acclaim as well. There's a lot of buzz about this online. Of course, it follows up 2018's Osarium Silhouettes Unhallowed. It is the 6th in the Hooded Menace discography, and it is available right now on Season of Mist. Like I said, there's a lot of hype around this record on social media. I think a lot of it is justified. What I have found very interesting is some of the commentary that I've read in reviews about the record, and a lot has been made about the supposed new wave of British heavy metal flourishes that abound in the new material. One website even called out Def Leppard's Pyromania as a key influence. I think that's going maybe a little far, and it may well be that I'm just growing old and deaf, but I think it's a bit of a stretch. What I do hear on the Tritonus Bell, however, is a Death Doom masterclass, that owes a fair bit to the likes of Candlemass and early Paradise Lost. I do hear maybe the odd more sort of classic heavy metal touch to it from time to time. The record that most frequently comes to mind for me is either Them or Abigail by King Diamond, and that's especially true on tracks like Blood Ornament and Corpus Asunder, where guitarist Lasse Peiko really lets loose with some very, very cool guitar leads, and the riffs just sort of have that driving 80s King Diamond feel to it. But for the most part, like I said, this is Death Doom in a modern wrapper, but very much with old school aesthetics. Another standout across the record for me is Hari Kuakanon's, I think I've pronounced that correctly, his vocals. I think it owes a lot to his influences, but what really elevates it above just kind of the standard Death Doom grunter is the fact that he is able to inject a lot by way of rhythmic hooks and tonality to it, and it means that his voice functions like an additional instrument, which, as I've said many times on the show, in my view, is exactly what what growls, screams, whatever the case should be. I think the record, generally speaking, is exceptionally well produced. It's really well performed, and everything up to and including the closing cover of Wasps, "The Torture Never Stops," is going to have your neck snapping from start to finish. And by the way, it's nice to see that there's a bit of love coming back for Wasp in the metal community. I feel like they were a bit of a joke band for a while, and I never quite understood why, because some of the early Wasp stuff is fucking excellent. In fact, if you go onto the Overthrow YouTube channel, I think they do a cover of Wild Child on there as well. Not the song I would have chosen. I'm more of a Mantronic or a 9-5 Nasty guy, but either way, like I said, I'm glad Wasp is getting their due. I am going to pause on that note. One thing just to say again, if you have not heard the Tritonus Bell, then make sure you get it. I mean, if you stuck around all the way to the news sections on this podcast, you'll know that I've been talking about this record for a while, and I've been looking forward to it. It has not disappointed, as proven by the next track. This is a song called Those Who Absorb the Night. Those Who Absorb the Night by Hooded Menace off the new record, The Tritonous Bell, available right now on Season of Mist. Head over to their Bandcamp, check out the record, and if you get yourself some merchandise or some music, then let them know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere that sent you. And kudos to Season of Mist for yet another great release. Season of Mist, one of the only record labels that is not staffed almost entirely by assholes. Anyways, right. On that note, let's head over to Metal Storm and see what the latest news headlines have to say. And first bit of news, Septic Flesh European touring plan unveiled. Apparently they have got a new record in the offing, which I am very much looking forward to, but they are going to be doing a 36-date tour starting in March of next year. Karag Angren, a band who I think are absolute shit, are opening for them, which means I'll probably end up giving this tour a miss. I do have tickets for Mayhem for next year, which I definitely will go to, and I'm definitely going to go to that Paradise Lost show in April as well. But I can tell you this much, I'll be fucking quadruple vexed before I go anywhere near a crowd ever again, because one thing that I will not be going through is the fucking hell of the last couple of weeks, or the last 10 days. I was very vaccine hesitant for a while, not an anti-vaxxer, but I had questions about whether I was going to just wait a little bit to see what some of the side effects were before I get it. But fuck that. You can, unless it's a third arm growing out of my fucking scrotum sack, you can give me the vax all you want. Anyways, let's move on. Darkwood's My Betrothed detail first album in more than 20 years. As much as the name Darkwood's My Betrothed sounds like all of the nerds in the world got together and brainstormed the worst band name they could possibly come up with, I will say that this new track that they've put out, In Evil, Sickness, and in Grief, is actually fucking excellent. It says here, after 23 years of silence, Finnish black metalers Darkwood's My Betrothed are making their long-awaited comeback with a new full-length album, Angel of Carnage Unleashed, to be unleashed on November 12th via Napalm Records. Like I said, the new streaming track is available. For sure, check it out. I think it's very, very good. And it is their first new release since 1998. Again, unfortunate name for a band, but when you put out music that's that good, then it doesn't really matter. Green Lung Graveyard Sun track premiered online. A lot of people are really, really hot on this band, and I kind of get Ghost vibes about them. Like, people seem to think that this might be like the next Ghost. I don't personally think so. I think that everything I've heard so far of theirs is fucking terrible. But anyway, if you're that way inclined, their new stuff is out. Dødsfanger, second full-length announced and detailed. This, on the other hand, is very, very, very good. Again, it says here, consisting of 4 black metal veterans, Dødsfanger return after 7 years of silence to give birth to their second album, Serpents of Old. Guitarist BST handled the recording of guitars and bass, as well as mixing and mastering in his studio in France. Additionally, drums and vocal recordings took place in Velvet Recording in Norway. Serpents of Old will be released on CD, vinyl, and digitally on October the 29th. Pre-orders will start on September the 6th. I believe this is out on Deborah Morty Records, which to me is an instant tick in the box. This track that they have put out as The Rivers Bleed Their Blessings is absolutely excellent. As a matter of fact, I would make a claim right now and say if the rest of the record sounds anything like this song, then this is a certain contender for the top 20 of 2021, I should say. But yeah, very, very good stuff. Let's move on. Gus G reveals new song, Hurrah. Nothing really grabbing my attention at the moment. What I will say I am very, very excited about is the new Panzerfaust, which should be on its way imminently. As well as the new Voices, which is also on its way imminently. So there's definitely a lot coming up in the next 6 months that I think could potentially, well, not 6 months actually. I can't believe we're actually in September already, but or pretty much in September by the time that most of you hear this. I think there's going to be a lot to sort of mix up the best records of this year's, or the list of the best records of this year, I should say. Crisian re-sign with Century Media, post new video. Brazilian death metal heavyweights Crisian release a brand new video for the title track of their recent album, Scourge of the Enthroned. I was such a huge fan of this band, and seeing them live is always excellent. But I must admit, Scourge of the Enthroned literally did absolutely nothing for me, and I tried a couple of times to listen to it. I just could never ever get into it. I don't know why. It just feels to me like it feels like they've sort of gone down a road where they're doing a lot of what Cannibal Corpse did for a lengthy period of time during their career, which is just refining the exact same formula, and I find that quite dull. I think that some of the best stuff that Crisian did was actually on something like I think the album is called Bloodshed, which is just not outtakes but B-sides and unreleased tracks and things like that, and it had a rawness to it and a badassness to it that I just feel like the new music lacks. Anyways, moving on, Rivers of Nile Unleash Focus track. I heard this, and I think I probably enjoyed it more because I was expecting so little. After that last saxophone-drenched bull mash that they put out, I'd pretty much written this band off. But I mean, this doesn't sound like the extreme metal masterpiece that I'm sure the likes of Angry Metal Guy and all these other fucking idiots will hail it as. But it's a pretty decent song. So. I can't imagine myself getting too excited about the track, about the record when it comes out, but I'll certainly give it a listen. Necrosphere premiere Madness Descends track and video with the first studio album Prophecies of Eternal Darkness on the way. Melodic black metal formation Necrosphere offer in listening another track. Madness Descends is available. Offer in listening another new track. Jesus Christ, some of the PR... or some of the language used in these PR releases is just absolutely atrocious. Is available for streaming with an official clip. It's actually a cool name for a band, Necrosphere. I'm sure they did it in tribute to Into the Necrosphere. Anyways, I'm going to move on to the liberal human centipede that is Blabbermouth. Let's see what they have to say. Ex-Wasp guitarist Chris Holmes to release Unbearable Influence album next month. Bully for him. Sepultura's Derek Green says showing proof of vaccination or negative test to attend concerts shouldn't be a problem. I'm starting to lean towards that side of thinking as well now. I mean, actually, no. I'd say this. It should be up to people to do what they want to do. But from my perspective, I won't be going anywhere near a fucking concert until I've been vaxxed, or until I've had both my jabs. I'll barely be going to the supermarket again without taking the appropriate precautions. Right. Watch Megadeth play sold-out concert in David Ellison's hometown. I wonder if they've made any jokes about his extracurricular activities. Rammstein's Till Lindemann questioned by Russian police over festival appearance. So the story here is that apparently Till's band played at a festival which I don't believe got any or had the appropriate approvals. What does it say here? According to Deutsche Welle, Rammstein frontman Till Lindemann was questioned by Russian police prior to his scheduled appearance at a festival over the weekend. The festival, which was slated to take place on August 29th in the city of Tver, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, 180 kilometers northwest of Moscow, was eventually cancelled due to reported pressure from authorities. Although some media outlets claimed that Lindemann was arrested when he was visited at his hotel room by Russian police on Friday night, Bild stated that the singer was merely warned by Russian police that he should comply with certain COVID-related conditions while performing at the event. According to Interfax, Lindemann's manager, Onar Ryband, faces charges for having violated migration laws because he entered Russia under the claim that the purpose of his trip was tourism. Oh, for fuck's sake. blah, blah, blah. Earlier in this month, a museum in Russia threatened legal action against Lindemann over the unauthorized sale of a fungible token bearing its imagery. Till's first ever NFT was set to include footage of the State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia. By the way, I know I'm supposed to know more about NFT since a lot of people seem to know about it. I don't know fucking jack shit about it. I'll be perfectly honest. I know that a lot of people are selling a bunch of NFT with various either songs they've done or music videos or whatever the case may be. I personally think if you buy that stuff, you're a fucking dumbass. I just, when it comes to investment, I don't believe in investing in a single thing that is not tangible and, it isn't profit generating. And then again, I might be completely wrong. So feel free to tell me if that is the case. Korn's Jonathan Davis is still struggling with COVID after effects. I can definitely understand that. Here's what I'll give Jonathan Davis by way of credit versus Corey Taylor, who's also recently had coronavirus. Unless I've missed it, at least Jonathan didn't run around with these weird, out of focus, blurry, pixelated photos taken from below where his face is all haggard and he looks like he's on the verge of death, like Corey Taylor did, telling everybody how sick he is. But he's had it pretty hard, and he was doing a show the other night where he had to do the show sat down. So anyway, I hope he feels better soon. Napalm Death frontman on veganism. The whole planet is going to have to adapt to a more plant-based diet. No, we won't. And I sure as fuck won't. There we go. Corey Taylor literally taking the worst photo of himself that he possibly can in a brazen attempt to gain sympathy from people. Anyways. Glenn Danzig said there could be a sequel to his vampire spaghetti western Death Rider in the House of Vampires. I don't know whether any of you guys have seen the trailer for this, but it looks almost as shit as Verotica. And I love Glenn. I love Glenn's music. I'm one of the Glenn diehards that, loves Circle of Snakes. I love... I even love Black Acid Devil, and When Satan's Child is one of my favorite Glenn records. But the man needs to be kept far away from a video camera. And it almost seems like it's fashionable for people to like his stuff, and it's kind of, they treat it the same as that other fucking nonsense movie, The Room, and say it's so bad it's good, but not for me. I've got better things to do with my time. I think, folks, that is pretty much it. Corey Taylor has 3 songs left to record for a new Slipknot album. There's some darker, heavier shit in it, bro. Yeah, like I said, nothing much else to report aside from the usual shit. Like I said, it seems like the human centipede of idiocy that's usually on here, giving their expert opinion on things, has very little to say about the ongoing clusterfuck in Afghanistan or anything generally useful. But God forbid Ted Nugent says he doesn't want to get vaxxed. They'll all have some sort of opinion. Anyways, that is the news done for this week. And that's it for this week, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks very much for sticking around until the very end. I really appreciate it. And as you can hear in my voice, I'm still a little bit under the weather, but I am definitely through the worst of it now. So by the time that I'm back with you next week, I think I should be back to full strength. I'll leave next week's guest as a surprise. I actually had a massive guest that I was supposed to do a recording with last week. Again, it was one I was going to keep under wraps. I dragged my carcass out of bed, sat here fucking sweltering with, fever and whatnot. And then this individual was a no-show. So I'm looking to see whether that can be rescheduled. If not, then I will publicly reveal his name and denounce him as the scumbag that he is. He's not a scumbag, but I do hope that we get to reschedule that one. Either way, I'll be back next week. Hope you guys enjoyed this show. I am going to play out with a track I referred to earlier on in the news segment. This is a band called Doodsvanger. The song is called As the Rivers Bleed Their Blessings. Have a fucking great week, everybody, and I will see all of you next Tuesday.